pause consideration of the paper, and we move to item 2 on our order paper, motion of no confidence. And I call on the Honourable Member for Arbury Castletown Lou, Mr Glover, to move.
Gurumai Lorder. I promise you it brings me zero pleasure to bring this motion here today. Like many honourable members in here, it's certainly not been the healthiest past week with sleepless nights and increased anxiety. However, someone had to have the courage of their convictions and bring this motion forward. It's been discussed for well over a year on the backbenchers, and there's an ever-increasing public dissatisfaction with the direction of travel of this administration. We have been drowning in consultations rather than actions. Lord, and many have asked why I didn't bring forward a motion of no confidence in the Council of Ministers as per the provisions in the Council of Ministers Act 1990. I believe there are ministers in this administration who are doing a good job and working very hard. The problem to me is in the centre of government, hence the framing of this motion. The lack of political leadership on the suicide prevention strategy being just one example of this, and we've heard further with question 7 on the order paper today. I haven't really actively sought a seconder for this motion, as I wanted members to seize the moment and have the courage of their convictions and be brave. We're all representatives of the people, so the challenge is to speak on their behalf. Mr Speaker, destabilising as the past week has been, this administration can hardly claim to have been stable. The Chief Minister seems to have the attitude of my way or the highway. We've seen musical chairs in the Council of Ministers with many sackings and resignations from the table in the past 3 years. There are now 5 former ministers on the backbenchers. One of the top qualities of a leader is to bring people with you, and I am not seeing that here. Lord, there's a style of leadership. I was flabbergasted by the outburst in another place following the resignation of the Health Minister earlier this month. The Honourable Member for Ramsey was away on parliamentary business. His choice, the Chief Minister said, as he rounded on what he had said on his departure. Mr Hooper wasn't here to defend himself, which I and many other members found shocking. It certainly wasn't statesmanlike behaviour. The irony was the Chief Minister was absent from the sitting the very next day, again on official business with the royal visit. Now, both these situations are either right or wrong. It can't be a mix. Mr Speaker, I want to move to the way this administration has handled policy decisions. We've agreed as a Parliament the high-level strategy via the Island Plan and economic strategy with a few dissenting voices. But some of the detail has been brought forward without parliamentary sign-off. An example of this is the major project proposed at Erie Staine for the wind farm. 2 former Chief Ministers have mentioned to me that this should have come forward for debate and shouldn't have been just a Council of Ministers decision under the guise of, well, you approved the high-level plan. The whole structure of our government needs reform for us to build trust and confidence again, and in a much bigger way than this current administration is doing, but that is for another day. The way this administration has acted just builds the public perception of, as Peter Carron put it many times, a one-party state rather than a democracy. Mr Speaker, we're all here as representatives of the people in our constituencies and for the people of our beloved island. They will always come first for me. I believe in renewables, but the way people in the immediate surrounds of the proposed onshore wind farm have been treated has, in my view, been a disgrace.
Rubbish.
Their world has been turned upside down, their health has been compromised. They see an improper process taking place just to meet a date and goal in the Island Plan. A done deal, and you do not matter. You are just collateral damage.
Rubbish.
Have we learned nothing from the Rosalind Ransom case? And there's the lack of transparency. We can't even see the agenda and minutes of the Energy Policy Board. There is now too much government behind closed doors, and that needs to change. There's too much government taking place in secret. Mr. Speaker, I don't recall anyone having grown the island population as a major objective in their manifesto at the last election. We did have sort out what we have, and that's where our focus should be, a laser-like focus on growing our economy, fixing the health service, but sticking to the principle of free at the point of entry. Repairing our roads, more affordable housing and social housing. If we start getting back to these basics as the real priorities, then people will want to come to our island and stay naturally. Everything costs money. I'm sure people will speak today saying, well, how are you going to be able to pay for all of this? There are plenty of good ideas on the backbenches. Some have been mentioned before but ignored. Speak to us, work as a collective. The wrong signal was sent out with the 2p tax increase, which is hitting lower and middle income earners hard and taking spend out of the economy. Mr. Speaker, people will say it's easy just to lob hand grenades from the backbenches. It's far harder in power, and they are right in many ways. But there has to be scrutiny and accountability in any worthwhile democracy. Nobody in this House is here to not try and make our island stronger and better. We just have to agree the way in which we do it, and I don't believe we're on the right path currently or under the right stewardship. Mr. Speaker, in the last 10 days, I've been dealing with a major business wanting to relocate to the Airport Technology Gateway, but having immigration visa problems for workers. There was a real possibility this business would not come here, but thankfully things are now sorted. And I want to thank the Treasury and Enterprise Ministers for their efforts in sorting out the issues here. I've been trying to help a family of 6 who have been made homeless. I've been trying to help constituents who wants to be transferred to another house to escape family abuse. I've brought into the spotlight the incomplete Meadows housing estate in Castletown for residents who have moved in. I visited all the houses in this estate over the summer and autumn months, providing my details. Been dealing with a whistleblower shattered and diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm sure every member in this House is dealing with very similar problems daily. These are the real issues out there that need addressing. This is the reality of our island currently, and I believe we can and must do better. It's time for a reset. I want to thank the many people who have made contact in the past week, the vast majority thanking me for bringing this motion. I heard about staff morale in the public service being as low as many can remember. I was told about a gagging order for staff working for Manx Care not to talk to the media or indeed their own MHKs. Culture change, I suggest, starts at the top. Mr. Speaker, many members in here are wrestling with the question, if this motion is successful, what comes next? Unfortunately, with the system that we have, the simple answer is we don't know. I'll be honest, some are concerned about Dr. Allinson getting the top job. Others are equally concerned about Mr. Thomas holding the reins of power. Please put aside those concerns. This motion is about the here and now. All of us have control of what could come next. Some members are waiting to see how the current Chief Minister reacts to this motion today before voting, the tone especially. If it's unsuccessful, I hope we get a different style, more conciliatory, less cutthroat and more inclusive, and I will support that. It's time to show backbone, to represent your constituents and the people of this wonderful island and make the change so sorely needed. This vote should be open and transparent, but not held in secret. Now is the time. I beg to leave.